CrittendenPress NewsTalk with Superintendent Vince Clark. My name is Chris Evans. I'm the editor of the CrittendenPress. We have the superintendent of the schools, and we're going to get an idea maybe today of what fall school could look back. Mr. Clark, I know very challenging times, and we do have our screen here, so
Yes.
we are protected.
Very good.
So tell us what it may look like as these kids prepare to get back to school, and do we know right now?
You know, Chris, it's still early. I mean, it really is early. I mean, we still have a couple months, and anybody's paying attention to this, and I know we all are, it changes daily. So it's fluid. We are engaged in daily conversations. We're doing Zoom meetings with superintendents across the state. I'm conducting Zoom meetings every Thursday with area superintendents, just talking about what their plans are, what considerations that they are giving. It is changing, but we can say that as it evolves, our plan of action is becoming more defined. It's still way early, and whatever we put out there today, we know that there's a possibility that it would change. But I can say from the standpoint as the superintendent of Crittenden County Schools and as a leader of Crittenden County Schools, our intention is to get back to normal school as close as possible. I mean, it really is. That's what we're working for. At the same time, we are preparing for alternatives to that normal start if needed. But it is, as we mentioned to our commissioner and other superintendents, we are listening to kind of how this thing is evolving. We are hopeful that we can start school in April as normal. With that being said, we recognize that there will be some families, there will be some parents that will not be ready to send their kids back, for safety reasons, for health reasons and things like that. And we understand that. We'll just say, how can we best work together to educate your child through a virtual platform, maybe some synchronous learning, where that child tunes in, to their chemistry class at 8 o'clock and world history at 9:30. We will work on that. I think the NTI program that we just went through, the almost 8 weeks of learning in March, April, and May, it was a good alternative to the situation that we had. But we do recognize that the learning needs to be more challenging in that situation, and that's one of the gaps that we will fill. But moving forward, we just conducted a survey. Well, we're actually in the middle of a survey that we sent out last week, and we appreciate the nearly 550 parents that responded to that. It's a preliminary survey. We asked some general questions to shape our planning, but about 90% of our parents said they're ready to send their kids back to school in August and to get back to normal. They want us to do it safely. They want us to pay attention to disinfecting and sanitizing and taking temperatures and things like that. So, of course, that's part of our daily conversation as well, is how we do that.
Let me take a quick break here to tell our viewers today's broadcast is brought to you by the Marion Tourism Commission, marionkentucky.org. You can go online and go to the marionkentucky.org website, find out all kinds of information about events going on in Crittenden County, phone numbers to your favorite attractions and places. And, things are starting to open up. Again, Coach Clark, I call you Coach Clark all the time, still can't get past that sometimes. The museum, Benny Clement Mineral Museum, opened this week. And all of the restaurants, according to the Tourism Commission, are now open, and that's a good sign. Some of them operate, of course, at lower capacity indoors, but so things are starting to come back together. I want to circle back on something that you mentioned, and through this COVID, a few months ago, we didn't we couldn't use Zoom and everybody know what we're talking about, but we can now. You mentioned something, you used a word that if children are home, if say they are concerned about coming to school and they want to be educated at home for the time being, there's a way they can tune in, I assume, through electronic means and watch their own classroom. Is that right?
That would be possible, yes. Through our Chromebooks, Google Meet. There's a Google Meet feature on that, and we would try to engage kids if they have adequate internet at home, which is an issue.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge in our community. But if someone chooses this option, we do want them to understand that it's certainly going to be more rigorous, and there will be expectation of synchronous learning going on.
You mentioned the survey, and I'm sure it answers, or you're trying to get just some feedback from parents, guardians in the community, whoever goes in and completes that survey. But I know some of the biggest questions, the elephant in the room is, are we going to wear a mask? How are we going to get these kids to school if they can't sit close together on the bus? So if you would talk about the mask situation and your transportation issue.
Yeah, transportation, right out of the gate, some of the guidelines that we were given, a couple of weeks ago, was only going to allow us to transport about 25% of our kids to school.
At any given time.
Right, because what their recommendations were every other seat.
And you have fewer than 20 buses in your normal routes.
We could probably put 23 or 24 buses if we use our activity buses and everything on routes to go out. But some of the guidelines, we're only going to be able to transport maybe 10 or 12 kids
at a time
on a route, and that is allowing children from the same family to sit together. Mm-hmm. If you just had single children from each family, you were looking at less than 10. So we were really having issues or trying to how we were going to get kids to school.
Are you finding some of that's loosening up now?
It is. We got some guidance yesterday from the Department of Health saying that if kids were masked up, then that we could run your normal routes and put kids on a bus if they were masked. Of course, the thing about a bus is you're enclosed in an area, so the risk of transmission is higher. But you it brings up a point about the mask, and you're right. It's probably one of the main topics across the state right now, and we're waiting on more guidance on that as it evolves, because I know the CDC and the governor's cabinet have made some recommendations, but from our standpoint, it's just not very practical to expect 1,300 students and 200 staff members to wear a mask, for 7 or 8 hours a day. Now, with that being said, I do believe today that everyone needs to have a mask. Because as we congregate kids, say, as we, move past in the hallway, and the hallway has a lot of students in it, that would be a time to mask up. Riding the school bus in the morning might be a time to mask up. Going to the cafeteria and waiting in line, might be a time to mask up. So there would be time, or if you're in a class and a kid has a coughing fit, that would be a time that we would need that safely protect our students and others. So I think there would be times when we do need to mask up, but we're to commit to a full day, full on mask, I think is impractical, really.
Mm-hmm. I've read a good bit about some of the proposals or plans that some of the superintendents are putting together, and I've also read a great deal where the education commissioner is getting some pushback maybe from some of the superintendents who don't think they can live by some of these guidelines. But that being said, some of the plans include teachers moving classrooms and students staying put during the day. Is that part of anything you're looking at?
It is. We have a weekly administrators meeting in our district where all of our admin team meets, and we talk through these issues and hot topic issues. And then we had Jim Tolley and his Department of Health join us yesterday, so we could talk some of these issues out as well. We want them to understand some of the challenges that we have. But yes, we talk about the principals are going to work on, like, make a top 10 list of the things that they can do in their school to kind of reduce the exposure or possible exposure in their buildings. But what might work at the middle school, where you have 100 seventh graders and you put them in 5 pods of 20 or 4 pods of 25, and they stay together. And then the math teacher comes to that class at 8 o'clock, and at 9 o'clock they go to the next one, but the English teacher comes to that one at 9 o'clock. So you've got a group of students that are not interacting with all 100 because one of the things we talked about is if there is a case, and there's a possibility
Sure.
that's going to happen. We contact Jim's office. They will do contact tracing from that, and they will want to know who came in contact with that student, who was within 6 feet of that student for more than 25 minutes.
Smaller circle.
During the, so you reduce that. Now, that's something we could probably do at the middle school, but that's probably something we cannot do at the high school, because you have classes at the high school with 10th graders, 11th graders, and 12th graders in the same class. So the challenge for that is a whole lot greater.
Mm-hmm. I want to remind our viewers today that Marion Tourism Commission, Marion, Kentucky, that's spelled out, marionkentucky.org is the website, and you can find out a number of things. If you want to know what's open, what's not, what attractions there are. If you're from out of town, you're interested in some lodging, lots of information on marionkentucky.org. And the Marion Tourism Commission wants to remind everyone that all restaurants right now in Marion, Kentucky are open, and the Ben Clement Minerals Museum is back open. We're here today with School Superintendent Vince Clark of the Crittenden County School District, and just very challenging times for anybody in a leadership position. And I know this is this is certainly weighing heavy on you, because you have the safety and concern of 1,200 students district-wide, and then you have parents who want to get back to school, parents who just soon keep their and it's a balancing act, and I know. And on top of that, you have sports. And athletics is important, and we know, we talked yesterday to Sean Thompson, the athletic director, and your volleyball coach, Bailey McDonald. And sports is important to the physical and psychological aspects of students. So as far as sports, do you have any idea what that might look like when it's game time? We know, we learned last week what it's going to look like for practice, but moving forward into the fall, everybody, are we going to have a normal football season? Are we going to be able to play volleyball in the gym? Any idea on any of this?
Yeah, I think those things are evolving as well. We're hopeful. I mean, I think we're hopeful because the process has started. So that means coaches can talk to their kids this week and next week, and then starting on the 15th, they can do small group instruction. And start bringing folks in and building those relationships and rebuilding relationships and developing communication avenues as well. And then I think every 2 weeks, these things kind of open up a little bit more. I think what will impact that a lot is how the numbers of the virus, if they will level off or if they spike or anything like that. And that's why it's important that we continue to mask up and disinfect and sanitize and be aware of our temperatures and things and moving forward, because that will impact our activities in the future. We're trying to keep that from spiking. So we're hopeful that we can get back to some, normal football schedule, fall sports schedule. Our co-curricular activities are important as well, like speech team and academic and chess teams, and and they are so important in the development of our students. Sure. Just that sense of belonging and the teamwork, being on a team. It's another opportunity for our staff, to mentor and coach kids. And it plays a big role in their emotional health, which is part of who they are. It's part of who our kids become. And it's important to get back to that. But, I think there'll be guidelines that come out on that. And, we will make those recommendations as they come out. Like you say, we're trying to get back to normal, but we're also trying to protect our 1,300 students and our 25 bus drivers and our 20 cafeteria workers, our food service, our teachers, our assistants, because we don't know, the health conditions, that they may be enduring, and what risk they're taking as well. So we just need to be aware of our role as a citizen, to protect each other and be good neighbors and moving forward.
Once again, I'll remind our viewers today that Kentucky.org, your local Marion Tourism Commission, sponsoring today's show, and appreciate their support for this. The Tourism Commission has a large role in the community, and they're at their website. You can find out all sorts of information about attractions here, lodging, some of the festivals we have. So share that with your out-of-town friends. That's what a tourism commission does. And they want to remind you too that all the local restaurants in Marion, Kentucky are now open to some degree, dine-in to some degree at all of them. The Benny Clement Mineral Museum opened on Monday, and we're still waiting to hear about the Marion Historical Museum. So any of you are coming to Marion this summer and love to go to those places, stay tuned to the CrittendenPress for all your information. We're here today with Mr. Vince Clark, Superintendent of Crittenden County Schools. My name is Chris Evans. I'm the host of the show and editor of the CrittendenPress. Mr. Clark, one thing we haven't talked a whole lot about. We've talked about what kids have to wear, how they have to show up at school, either a mask in their pocket ready to put it on, have to wear it on the bus. You'll have to check their temperature at some point, whether it's before they get onto the bus or before they walk into school, or maybe both. So with that, extra sanitation, extra all sorts of expenses. How do you pay for this? And then the second part of that question being, the school district, all school districts in Kentucky are paid on an ADA, average daily attendance. Is it average daily attendance?
ADA, yes.
And so if 10% of the population, 10% of the parents say, we're not sending our kids back to school, do you get paid for those kids? Will that be a reduction in your revenue this year? So if you could speak to those.
Well, the state and the legislators will have to review that and see, how we can get credit for that. We've recovered funding, in the spring because they expanded the NTI days, from 10 to unlimited. So we were able to count, those days as attendance. And the way they do that through NTI is if you have an NTI day, you use the previous year's attendance rate.
And NTI is non-traditional instruction. Another one of those acronyms we're learning more about.
Yeah, right.
Non-traditional instruction.
Yeah. But what happens on July 1st, the NTI resets at 10. Mm-hmm. So we haven't been given permission to use extra NTI days. So
and the legislature would have to do that. And from what I understand, they can also, once they convene at the first of next year, they could retroactively provide those.
I think so. I think they could. And the message from our legislators have been, what can we do to support our school districts during this time of need? So I would expect them to do the right thing on that. But it is a challenge. I mean, it really is. We've gone almost 8 weeks with our state shut down, and there's going to be an impact on the revenue that's generated through taxes, which will trickle down to our school district. And, there's talk that there could be a 10 to 12% cut during the next year at some point district-wide. But, if we have to tap into our contingency, for to provide sanitizers, disinfectants, we're looking at the possibility of extra custodians during the day, wiping down high-touch areas. Right now, we have one custodian at the elementary campus and one daily custodian at the high school campus that works there. So we may have to bring in more of those folks in, or bringing in some of the second shift folks and working the first shift. Those are just some of the things that we have to figure out. Not doing those things is not an option.
No, but they do cost more money.
It does cost more money,
and putting more buses on the road is a big expense.
Yeah, buses, and right now, the challenge that we have with transportation is that we can't train folks. We haven't been able to, to bring
Bus
in
drivers,
and train new folks. So, that's a challenge for us because, you have retirements and you have folks that have surgeries and things like that are unable to drive for a while. So, one of the things that we're looking at as a solution is doubling up some routes. We do have 2 routes that, they could come pick up kids, drop them off, and then go back and pick up another route.
So then that delays those kids' entry into the school. But if you've got to check everybody's temperature, it may take a while to get into the school.
Yeah, it will. And we're working on a plan to check temps before kids get on the school bus.
Where do you do that? On the side of the road?
I don't know. We haven't thought about that. Where we would do that. And then who's going to do that?
Who's going to do it? The bus driver.
Yeah, it's
really
not going to be the bus
driver.
driver. It's not going to be the bus driver. So most of our buses have bus monitors on them right now. So they can do that, but there would be some buses that we would have to provide more monitors on. And while we're talking about transportation, there's an impact for us next year as we, pay attention to the number of kids that we can put on a school bus, because historically, we've allowed kids, to kind of, with permission, jump on this bus and go to, an aunt's house, or, go to grandma's house, or, do different things. But as we become more restrictive on this, we will be kind of boxed in on what we can do as far as flexibility in taking kids other than their home residence.
Flexibility, that's a term we may be hearing less of. We're hearing a lot more of these new acronyms and some new words. Flexibility may be one that's out the door. I want to remind our viewers today, Marion Tourism Commission is our sponsor today, MarionKentucky.org. And that's spelled out, all Marion, Kentucky. Go check out their website. Follow them on Facebook, like their posts, and that way in your feed, all this will show up all the time and let you know that all the Marion restaurants are now open and the Mineral Museum is now back open for traffic inside the building. So a lot of things are getting back, and we're very interested to see from Mr. Clark what school is going to look like when it starts back in the fall. We appreciate him coming by. Any closing comments, Mr. Clark?
I do. I just want to share some information from our survey that is currently out there right now. And if you haven't filled out the survey,
you can still take the survey. You can go actually to the CrittendenPress website, and I'm sure it's on your website too, your school.
Yeah, and it's been sent out. And the more information, it shapes what we're planning for. So I encourage folks to put this out there or complete it. I appreciate the 550 folks that have already completed this. It certainly informed kind of like our thinking and what we're planning for. But we're going to repeat the survey again in July. And that will be more definitive about what we actually do for school. So we encourage folks to take both because they're very valuable.
Things change so quickly.
They do change, but we're asking for input, and it does matter. But I will say, I just been reviewing some of this, 92% of our folks said they do desire to get back to a normal school start sometime in August. I know our board will be looking at least 2 different calendars on Tuesday and then they will approve a calendar on June at our regular board meeting, which is scheduled for June the 18th. But 92%, I mean, that's, that's
ready to go.
Folks are ready to get back there. Talking about the alternate schedule, the half the kids on Monday and Wednesday and the other half on Tuesday and Thursday, was not well received. I mean, about 40% said that folks did not like it. For good reason, though. I mean, childcare, learning from home requires good internet and things like that. So they not only said, that they weren't for that, but the reason why, and that's valid for us. The learn from home option, we will work on that option for the kids that need to do that for health reasons. So we will work on that, but it's going to be more challenging than it was in March, April, and May. And then here's another one about how we get your child to school. 48% of the respondents, 48% said they would drop them off, and then 40% would ride the bus. Mm-hmm. So that's important to us to know what our transportation needs are. The remainder, 12%, would be our student drivers. Internet access. That was a challenge for us during the spring. And, 76% of our folks said that they do have adequate internet, but 24% do not. Yeah. And, when you talk about learning from home, that is, that's a game changer. I mean, it really is. And
any plan's only as good as its weakest link. And that's our weak link here when you talk about remote learning or doing anything remotely.
And there's been a lot of not only, learn from home, but, telehealth, has became a big service for our community. So one of the things that we've done, though, is we've had a couple conversations with AT&T. We've looked into the possibility of placing some hotspots on our buses with antennas so that folks can access those throughout the county. I've talked to Dan Wood about the possibility of using some of our fire departments out in our county as well as a spot where kids could upload and download if we go through another NTI situation, because if we do go through another learn from home, if this thing spikes and we go through another March, April, and May that we just went through, we're going to have another level of internet, Wi-Fi for our community. So we are looking at that as well. But this is good information. We appreciate the folks that got back to us on that. If you haven't filled it out, please go in and complete the survey. We look at it every day, and then we know as this thing evolves that we will need to do another one mid to late July, so that we can kind of nail down what our transportation, what our learning and teaching needs are. The calendars. One of the calendars that the board will entertain is like a later start around August the 25th. One of the reasons for that is that it allows the teachers to come in and do some training in front of that on how to utilize technology. There's a lot of new standards out this year, so we need to go a little deeper into that. And then just how to engage kids virtually as well. So we will look at that. The board will decide. I expect the board will decide at its regular meeting which calendar that we will use to start.
So in a couple of weeks, we will have an idea of when school will start. Maybe not exactly what it's going to look like yet, but have an idea of when it's going to start. I want to thank Mr. Clark for coming by. Always appreciate such great information, information this community really wants to know right now. Appreciate Marion Tourism Commission at marionkentucky.org for its support of our program today, and appreciate all of our viewers. Go online and well, you're online if you're watching this, aren't you? And check that like button on MarionKentucky.org, and check check your like button and follow button on the CrittendenPress. And for those who don't know, you can watch this program on Twitter. You can find the link on Snapchat. It's also posted to YouTube, so we try to cover all our bases. Thank you, Mr. Clark, again, and thank you, MarionKentucky.org.
Thank you, Chris.